So, in order to make sense of the phenomena of this, lifetime of this being, and to try and deal more directly with particular points of stuckness, I've gotten into the book, The Divine Agreement, which deals with the levels or planes of consciousness, and have made my way through the physical, the astral, and the causal bodies. And some of my questions so far have to do with how does one master or practice specifically within any of these bodies?
Well, depends on what you mean by master. Because what you need to do is know what they are so as not to suffer them. But that doesn't mean you master them. So, Now, when we look at the need most ordinary people have, maybe even extraordinary people have, to distract themselves from things that are going on inside themselves, they need separation from, let's say. They need a relief from. So, all of that is interdimensional stuff. Whether it has to do with life karma, your life situation, as it was, as it is, and maybe as it needs to be. And this could be at the level of an emotional concern, and it could be a lump in the throat, a pain in the stomach, pain in the shoulders, pain in the head. It could show up coinciding with various physical phenomena, but it's really an emotional, let's say, reaction to life karma, a change. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it could also include memories from former karma, early life karma or past life karma. And the individual has to know what that is for themselves. And when it shows up in certain patterns, then you know what it is, and there's no mistaking it. So then it depends on the powers of observation. To be able to discern whether it's a baby memory, right, childhood memory, or adolescent memory, or something else. Because we do remember, and we can be brought back to remembering things. All of these levels and all the phenomena, let's say, ascribed to or typical of, let's say, the physical plane, mostly physical body, activities and memories, what you've done, and how you've either had great times or bad times, depending on your accident proneness, and so on and so forth, which could be joyous moments because they could be fantastic moments, or well worth the pain in some cases, say. But they're memories. And this is really about remembering, not just memories, but let's say the intensity of the memories relative to planes of consciousness. Physical memory, emotional memory, causal memory, time memory, causal time memory, time track memory. Etheric energy memory, memory of not quite thought as such, almost thought memory, knowing. So there's knowing, not just remembering a thought or an emotion or a memory from the unconscious or the past. There's knowing. So there's knowing memory, there's knowing all of these things, and there's knowing beyond what they show up as. Because in terms of the Dharma, the reality and the way, there is nothing. There's no one. And in the space of your stillness and peace, if you have any, and relaxation, you don't exist. Your self-mask has no validity, no existence. And just because you're uncomfortable appearing to not have a self, that's your problem. Because there's never been a self. It's a mock-up. It's a continual mechanical mock-up. So, well, sitting is the evidence. At peace, in, let's say, a condition of peaceful abidance. There's no self there. There's nothing there. That's the fact of it. Scientists prove it. The brain goes not quite to sleep, it goes into relaxation. There's not any proof of self-thought, no evidence of it. And in deeper states of consciousness, there's no evidence of any self-thought as well. It disappears. Self-noise is appearing and disappearing. So we can sit and have a thought. You can create a thought, like being in this room thought. No feeling, just room thought, image of the room. I'm remembering that there's a here-ness to it, it's something you're experiencing right now. That can be remembered forever, it can be forgotten and burnt forever as well. So there's no room thought. You can have a mic stand memory to replace the room memory. You can feel the presence of the stand, and already the room is fading out, but the presence of the stand comes up. So shifting, let's say, images, memories. It could be an emotional connection with the room, or it can be just no connection with emotion, just being the room. So what you're considering now is what you might add to any moment of your own, let's say, self-perception, and make it that will go to zero. No perception. Before there's a perception, there's no perception. You have no consciousness, and you have consciousness. You come out of sleep, deep sleep, you remember nothing, because you are nothing to remember. Comment now.
The book goes into a certain amount of detail about which phenomena belong to which bodies. It does not necessarily offer specific suggestions on how to work within those bodies, how to develop, say, chops, how to not be quite as stuck in or subject to any of these bodies, but how to sort of rise up and to claim a certain amount of mastery.
Then you have to add time and or space to remedy what your concerns are on any level. Because you're not just about these planes of consciousness, there's something that's prior to these planes of consciousness. Who? What about the who? There may be something of a who involved in this. Who you think you are, who you believe you are, and who you know you're not. So there's the in-between, the space of, let's say, the time of appearing to be someone or something relative to your who, in an emotional dimension. Suffering, pain, tragic, say, sorrow, loss, happiness, recovery, finding something, finding a lost friend, finding something, memory, emotional power, unconscious perhaps power as well. Depending on what we're talking about, there could be a completion, a fulfillment that dissolves concern relative to that event, that thing, key, your car, your instrument, your hand, whatever is your money, your wallet. It's like a relief. You can let go. So it doesn't exist then, except as a fading memory. It doesn't have to control you. So if it doesn't have to control you, there's a sense of being beyond it and thus mastery. You don't have to be any phenomena that arises in your consciousness. It appears to disappear. You can cling to it, make it more than it needs to be or is. See? Be that physical, emotional, astral, same thing. Psychic, it's just like somewhere else in some cases. Right. In terms of special phenomena or ghost phenomena. Subtle body phenomena, you have that too. But they're all the same. You can put them on, take them off. See? Switch. Real, no real. Zero. Be active in it or stop. See? It's the beauty of spiritual practice because you're always coming back to zero. The reset button. Reset mind. No mind. That is to be created. What comes after the no mind state is what you need to create. See? You want to fill in that space. It's like going to bed in no mind. You have clear entrance into a deep sleep state. You wake up in the morning, maybe from that, maybe not, and you have to reset it. Who are you going to be? See? What do you want to dominate your consciousness? You may have things you have to do that have to dominate. So those are memories you want to keep up front, because without it you don't get done what you hope to get done. See? So this is all managing the phenomena, see, of the multi-dimensional side of what it is. See? All of a sudden you're on the crapper, let us say, and a real memory comes in of something very important for you. But it wasn't going to come in at any other time, obviously. Right? And then all of a sudden when you're relaxed and you're relieving yourself, then you have this brilliant thought of what it is, and you remembered something very important. And you go from there. Mm-hmm. 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 So your multi-dimensional cosmic experience is being managed already. It's programmed. It's what the blood handles. Your habits, your unconscious urges, and all the things that feel good to you and that you may question. All the things that you may want to do, all of these are part of the same matrix. We're dredging up, depending on what we assume our needs to be, or what we imagine we need to be. Or who? And that comes up, that rises, and you can do something with it. In your consciousness, it comes to the fore, and you can let it go. And something else can happen in a flash, by way of phone, or knock on the door, or somebody calls you, or some other form of communication and interference comes in, and you're off on that wavelength. That may be good or maybe not. Depends. All of a sudden, someone shows up, takes you out of what you wanted to do. You have to divert yourself to what you're considering to be more urgent to do in that moment. So, could be somebody in need. But you have to determine that. You could have a memory come in that says, no, this is not going to be right. I know better than this. I've already done this before with this person. See? So you have a memory that shows up as intelligence to remind you that there are higher priorities for you right now. You don't want to go down that drain. See? And then you can think, that was a good memory, thank you, unconscious. I really needed that. I wasn't even thinking about that, and then all of a sudden it comes up. See, so there's management going on of interdimensional value that has to do with your sanity and your purpose. If you have a purpose, if you don't have a purpose, then without that purpose, as a matrix of focus, imagined or actualized, then you're going to be scattered. Therefore, it is said, know what you have to do and do it. Okay? And if you're lost and without something to do, make up something to do and follow that and do that. So you have something to galvanize your energies in terms of forward motion.
Is it possible to differentiate between stuff like
you know an emotion and you know a random thought? Mm-hmm. One is feeling, one is frightening, feeling, And then one is casual and boop, it's gone. No big deal.
Is it possible to differentiate between, say, a thought or emotion that shows up?
It's possible to differentiate between one emotion and the next emotion.
How about between something that might be projected on you by someone else, or something that's coming from a more neutral subconscious
And
place?
you might also be able to be receptive to future impulses, right? Visions of the future, see, as well as being preoccupied with imaginings and visions and impulses from the past, which are on replay. And sometimes you need that to go over it, depending on your karma and your situation, to go over it to clarify what it was for you that you needed to know about an event in the past that involved other people, but they have their take on it and you have your take on it. Then you want to be able to erase that and say, gone. So we're not here to be controlled by this multidimensional phenomena. We are here to put it to use. But again, it's regulated by the blood, by ancestral influences, habits from the line of, let's say, parentage, the bloodline. And so that's given to you. Ultimately for your protection and wise guidance. So there's some things you won't be able to do because they're overridden by superior programs of this phenomena and data. See, there are fears put in by your great-grandparents, and they stop you before you jump, or crash, or bang, or whatever. Dip too deep into something. Yeah. Some people don't have those checks and balances, psychically speaking. See?
In the chapter on the causal plane,
time plane, the time track.
Yeah.
What was already done, what is going on, and because it's been already done and going on, chances are it's going to continue unless you add a change to it.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to shape your future because you can do that. Time is a track to manipulate, control, and adjust or destroy accordingly, believe it or not. So then the question is, what is your future? Is it the one your ancestors sort of projected on you, hoped you would fulfill out of their own desires? Possibility depends on how much intelligence you have to corroborate what is true about that, concerning it. Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to work specifically from a given plane, say the causal plane?
The causal plane is the plane of time karma, and we can see that as time track. And again, a word used to describe it in a certain way is like habits. Say, let's say patterns of behavior that are pretty fixed. Time born, time strengthened. Right? You do things over and over again and you strengthen what it is that needs to be done. That could be good, it could be bad, depending on what you know and what you need to be doing with your energy in a certain time. So you got to change your habits to manage what the results are you want relative to time. And we're talking now about the future, correcting what was done in the past for better or for worse, and that could be for worse, and you want to make sure you do not create worse again for yourself. So you want to make sure if it pertains to your cars, you're really up on managing your mechanical instruments so that they don't betray you, right? Because of negligence, because you don't learn. You create bad habits of forgetting what it is you need to do for yourself, and stuff catches up with you and bops you over the head. When you have to look at the time track, you've done that, you see that, and what you need to do is pay attention to the machinery. And you're altering the future at that level, physically.
So physical, mental, and astral phenomena can also show up. They do also show up on the time track. They are all
They're all built into the time track. So it's going to happen. See, so the idea is, how much are you willing as a human, right, soul, intelligence, to assume you can change and alter for your own purposes. Say, I don't want it to go there. It's going to go there if I don't change the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So you can create and or recreate a behavior as part of a process of the recreation of your future. So the future is something you want to recreate according to what your purpose is. And that's the same with all the tracks. When your memories are, you can control the memories. You say, well, wait, I don't need to hear from you guys. Hey, no memory, please. Boom. Settle down, memories. Be at rest, memories. Chill out. So now I'm going to do this. Beyond memory, I'm going to do this now. And you're able to fill in that space with what it is you need to do, depending on what you choose to do. That will also become a memory and a pattern to be used against you or for you. Yeah. Right? And that's the creation of it. They say, no, that's no good. Boom. Need this. Come in.
So is it possible or useful to practice on any specific plane? For example, on the memory level?
Depends on what you need to do with it.
What would that be? How would one actually just apply focus, constructive focus?
Depends on what you're willing to remember. It depends on what you're not able to remember that you need to remember. If it's past, then there's present. What do you need to remember now? What do you need yourself to remember as you're moving forward in the next 3 days? What can't you forget within the next 3 days? That's using your intelligence, right, born of nowness, to affect a future process, or a product, or an effect. Because now you're, with this consideration, you're stepping outside of what was already supposed to happen. A little bizarre, but such as it is. That's how it's done. It's done creatively. The important thing is to know you can create a change, and you are responsible for it. So a lot of it's already mapped out at a certain level. The future is already there at a certain level. Then there's more that you can create on top of that for your purposes, if you know enough to do that. To put it directly and put it simply, you need to know what is yours and what is others. And you need to know what the mix is. So you're not victimized by phenomena and like, duh. There's no such duh. You know what's coming from you, you know what's not. Pay attention. Be willing to be still so you know what it is for you. Know when it is for you. And know what it is, and maybe even who it is for you. Because you're willing to stop, go deep enough, or listen well enough for it to show up as it needs to, for your judgment or for your experience. So it's you observing your own phenomena. And not just rolling all over your time track, this way and that way, and taking things as it comes, and then never really slowing down enough to know what's yours or not yours. You have to determine what your responsibility is. Is it to know or not to know? Are you here to be victim and effect, or are you here to be cause and creative? I play this music that I'm playing because that's what I want to hear. Don't want to hear what everybody else has to hear. And I make sure that what I play comes from a deep enough level so that it actually makes what's coming even better. Because left to the music of other people, which is supposed to be working for them, not for me, I have no guarantee of anything. This is not for me. It's what I'm willing to listen to, but not what I'm willing to create for my own, let's say, path. As it applies to music, then it applies to your thought processes. And with regards to music, then that's your emotions and feelings, and you're creating emotions and feelings you should know you need for your purposes, instead of other people's, unless you trust other people's having the right emotions, right ideas. But they're not a burden to themselves. They're part of the transformational process, not information. Transformation. Comment?
It seems like actually one of the questions I had very early on, maybe first visit 7-ish, 8 years ago, was to do with this phenomena, which what you just described sounds like a full-time job. And I thought, why am I not?
For who?
Yeah.
So for who? For who? See, this is the issue. For who? Is it for you, or is it being handled by something else? See? It's possible. This is hypothetical, but it's possible. Your ancestors are saying this to you because you're not listening to it directly. It's just a boom. Have to create for you. And stop being created by everybody else. See? By their mechanical karma. See? Have no interest in the elevation of consciousness or the expansion of awareness. So obviously that's not going to work for you, and that's going to keep you spinning around, searching for and bouncing off one person for the next person. See? Unfulfilled in every case. So you have to open more to the creative and the deeper potential to get beyond, let's say, the overwhelming influence of the past, which knows itself and repeats itself in terms of habits. And that shows up for you to slay it, kill it, offer it as wood for the fire of recreation, not just more information. And bad habits. Little insight into the levels now?
Yes.
Very good. Sure.